I'm Kiwi.
And I'm Jarad.
And we are two gentlemen. Jarad, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, this time. No, but good evening, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm always pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. That's good to know.
Look, we are very, very different people, Jarad. And
Yeah.
the more we're reconnecting, the more we realise how different we are.
Yeah.
How different our backgrounds are.
Yeah.
And
Pretty awesome.
I guess one of our biggest differentiating factors is our parenting styles.
Yeah.
So we've touched on it many times already. We're a homeschooling family.
Yeah.
And my kids are pretty wild. That's the truth.
Yeah.
But wild in a good way, I believe.
range.
Free range kids. Yeah. They lay eggs for us to consume.
It's not weird at all.
No, it's the best kind of egg, human egg.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Just free range. Even.
But that is actually a term, free range parenting.
Right.
Look, I don't like labels personally.
Yeah.
I try to do what comes naturally to me.
Yeah.
Is there anything that shapes your parenting? What is your parenting paradigm?
Well, I don't think I'm. I try to. I try to be as understanding and loving as any parent should be, and I came from a very, very loving family.
You did,
and I never felt like I was alone. But I also broke the wooden spoon on my backside when I did the wrong thing. So, there was. My parents got angry at me. I wasn't a bad kid.
Yeah.
But as parents, I as a parent now, I can see how they would lose it.
Yeah.
These days, not saying that I'll ever, that sort of punishment isn't used anymore. Well, in our house, it isn't, and But I obviously have those. You have those moments where you get so frustrated. You're like, I can't get through. These kids are good kids, but why aren't they listening? Why aren't they eating their food they're supposed to eat? And you touched on before that in an earlier episode where you don't want to be like, you don't want your kids to obey you. Well, I think I agree with you, but there's so many times in there where they do obey what I say. So. Yeah. I'm a little bit confused. I think I'm, a good parent, and let's delve into what makes a good parent. But essentially, we're different, and I look at the way that you do things, and I agree with it. But I also don't know if I could incorporate that into how I'm a parent.
Yeah.
I guess for lack of better words, I'm traditional.
Mm-hmm.
I recognised. I feel as a parent now. I feel very good where I'm at. I recognised that my work was having an effect on my parenting.
Yeah,
I was frustrated at work, and so I'd be getting home frustrated.
Yeah,
I changed that up now, and I threw everything in and bought a lawnmower and started mowing lawns, and that cleared my mind.
Yeah.
Didn't make much money though, unfortunately. But and then now I've found my path. I've been pretty lucky in that regard. So I'm not frustrated, and I feel I'm not bringing home anything to the family in that regard. So I feel like I can parent with a clearer head, clearer mind. But look, yeah, I think. If you're going to call me label, you said you don't like labels, but yeah, I'm traditional. Me and my wife both have bad days. Like, we both have days where, usually it's not together. So it's usually good cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen a lot. Like, I'm not sitting here going every day, one of us is bloody off the planet. But there's times where you get frustrated. You would surely, your kids, I joked and said they're free range, but surely there has to be some boundaries that they've crossed in their time. That how do you approach that? And also, if you want to excuse the way I say this, but alter their behaviour, if they've done something wrong, or something that you don't approve of, how do you how do you sort of incorporate the style that you do things? You know, how does that work?
Well, we talk.
Yeah.
It just comes down to having a conversation. That's the way we do it.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
Yep.
But when, just so everyone knows, like, I mean, you've got, your kids are 12 and 6.
Yeah.
So, you know, as your 12-year-old's getting older, he, you know, is becoming a teenager, and your 6-year-old is...
He's becoming a teenager too.
Becoming a teenager, but at 6. But you know, like, when did you start discussing, bad behaviour, for lack of better words? You know, how did you do that? Look,
Mike, we don't have behaviours in our house. To me, we have needs.
Yeah.
That's the way we've always seen it.
Yeah.
If there's anyone actually listening to this podcast, I work in the disability sector.
Yeah.
And the way we look at it is, you know, I don't look at people as, you know, obeying or having behaviours or anything like that. I look at it as having communication needs. Something that Erica says a lot is, well, she doesn't say it a lot, but she said it enough times for me to actually remember it. It's that all behaviour is purposeful. So I try to find out what the person's needs are and what they're trying to communicate with what they're doing.
As a 3-year-old though, as a kid that's 3, how do they communicate that to you?
They can communicate by tipping paint all over the floor, for example. Okay. They could do anything.
Yeah. Sorry, I've got questions coming out.
Yeah, of course. Go for it.
Okay, if they tip that paint over you come to my house and they tip it and I'm saying to you, don't worry about it, it's okay. Do you feel an embarrassment, or do you feel
definitely
a sense of like, ooh, he's expressed himself
on
their carpet, like, you know, like with you know, or drawn all over their walls, or, you know, like, do you doubt yourself? Try and help me with the words, not doubt yourself.
Doubt's a great word. I doubt myself constantly.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And to me, that's healthy though. Like,
absolutely. I question myself every step of the way.
Yeah.
Jarad, I don't know how all this is going to turn out.
Yeah. We don't have the crystal ball, do we?
You know, one of our very good friends said to me, I think he got the line from Modern Family. He was saying that, you know, you just hope that you're not raising a serial killer.
Yeah.
That's about the best you can do.
Yeah.
As a parent, you know, I think the job is, you know, if you look at it from a biological point of view, or evolutionary psychology point of view, you're trying to pass on your genes.
Yeah.
So when you create this new unit, this container of DNA, you want them to have the skills to continue to survive in the world. Yeah. So, you know, they need to be able to hunt. They need to be able to build shelter, you know, from old times, and, you know, translate that into today, and you know what that would mean. So that's
society.
Yeah, exactly. And that gives us so much anxiety and so much fear.
Of course. You know?
And so I don't know how this thing's going to turn out, Jarad. I really don't. But you know what? There's no guarantees for if my kids were attending the best school in the country, getting the top grades, there's no guarantee that anything would turn out for them either.
Not at all.
There really isn't. I look at, you know, some of the top athletes in the world who have depression.
Yep.
You know, rock stars who kill themselves, movie stars who kill themselves. There are so many people that would think, oh, God, I'd love to do it. I mean, I'd love to be a tennis player.
Of course. Yeah.
You know, I'd love to have been I'd love to play guitar, you know, on stage in front of all those people. I'm not good enough, yet it's still not enough.
Yeah.
None of it matters unless you're actually happy.
Yeah.
So, to me, that's the driving force. And I just want to share a story that has really shaped my parenting. If you're wondering why, I mean, I was pretty, I guess, free range before that anyway, but we went camping and I almost killed my son, my youngest son. So he was throwing mud at the car.
Yeah.
And we were at a campsite and he had mud all over his hands. And I said, oh, can you just go over there? And I wasn't angry at all. You know, I don't care. Like, it's a four-wheel drive. It's meant to have mud on it. I'm not one of those, you know, soft roaders. So I said, can you just go over to Mummy over there? She's just over at the tap. Just wash your hands before you get into the car. And so my now 6-year-old just looked at me and went, no. I said, Mummy's just right there, darling. Just please wash your hands. Like, no. And then a full drive just comes flying past. He would have been dead.
Yeah. Okay.
Had he just been completely obedient, and I didn't look because I couldn't see because it was behind our car. You know, we drive an SUV. which, I'm 5'3", so I can't see over the top of it. And I didn't even think.
Yeah, you weren't in your boosters. That's right.
But this is, this is a campsite. Yeah, cars shouldn't be flying through like that.
No.
But he would have been dead.
But if he blindly...
If he blindly followed me, he would be dead. Yeah, and I feel like, oh my gosh, I got another chance with my son.
Was that just like a...
It was a stroke of luck. And I'm not saying, therefore I'm glad that he's defiant.
He does what he wants.
Yeah, that's not what I mean at all. But, the fact that I could have lost him, and at my fault, completely my own doing, because I'm the adult there, I'm meant to keep an eye on things. If I'd lost him because of my, my own negligence, that would have been devastating. The family would have been torn apart. So, that really just made me... Well, I already did appreciate everything, but it made me appreciate everything more so. And you know what? I'm just happy I've got 2 healthy kids.
Yeah. And that's so, I talked about how we have earlier that we have our bad days. But what I must sort of stress is, the good days very much outweigh, those stressful times. And you mentioned it before to me, it's happiness. So, like I said, you want to, again, forgive my words, you want to train this individual to be able to survive in society how you see society. But you want them to be able to do it how they want to do it and be happy.
Yeah.
I'm still new at this whole kids go to school, like I got one kid in year 2 and I got one going to kindergarten next year. So, I've still got 10 years, 12 years of this stuff to navigate.
Yeah.
And what I find really hard as a parent, I think I'm a bit of a helicopter parent. I hover too much because I just love them. I love watching them do stuff, right? Yeah. So I see parents that just drop their kids and walk away, and I just love watching them go down the slide, or
Yeah.
I see people buried in their phones, and I think, you only get this time with the kids. Like, it's quite short. Like, anybody you ask that's had children and they got adult children, they're like, you only get this time.
Yeah.
And I remember there's one little turning point with me. I was living, we just built a house. And the new neighbour, I was getting to know the new neighbour, and we had my eldest was the same age as his little boy. He had one boy, and I was having a little bit of a sook about like they just both kids. Oh, well, one was really young, so I go, like the eldest one, she sort of jumps into bed with us, and we have to put her to sleep, and it's just a bit of a battle at times, with bedtime, and she just doesn't like being alone. And he's like, you know what, dude? Like, cherish it. Like, he goes, my son's, he stays in bed with us all the time. Like, he goes, I don't know if that's to the detriment of their relationship or not. But he's like, I'm taking it. Like, there'll be a time where he won't nothing to do with me. Yeah. Or there'll be a time when he's too busy with his friends, or, and I'm like, what, that sticks with me. Like,
yeah.
And this guy was no wise man or whatever, and I think, well, you know what, that for some reason that stuck with me, and I'm like, well, I'm going to cherish everything, even if it's just watching them go down the slide, or watching them eat a hamburger, or, like, whatever it is, like, you're never going to get that moment back.
No.
So as a parent, like, I like to savor those moments, and that might turn me into a bit of a helicopter, whereas, I like walking her into school, whereas some parents are like, kick out of the car, gone.
Yeah.
Kiss and drop, and they don't do the kiss.
Yeah.
Like, what I mean? I think, well, man, like, these kids are going to grow up, and then you'll be starving for that. Like, in my opinion. Yeah. Anyway, so, as I said, we have our moments, but 98% of the time, we're just, I'm in awe of my kids.
Yeah.
And I think, as long as I can just, and all I want to do is teach them to be able to survive in society.
Yeah. So that's a great point, actually, to survive in society. What do you think is the most important survival tool? Well, it doesn't have to be one, but, what do they need to do to survive? I mean, is it a dog-eat-dog world? Do they need to just, do everything they can to step over the top of someone else?
No.
Exactly. So what do you think survival means?
See, for me, it's... and we've talked about this, is, it's realization, and I feel like I'm learning as I'm doing this podcast too, in a way. So, I hope I'm having the same effect on you at times.
Absolutely.
You're like, nah, not at all. But
always learning.
Caring for yourself, and that's you can't force someone to who is not naturally, like we just talked about it, is not naturally a person who's confrontational. You can't say, well, you must, to succeed in life, you must go and get that before that person gets that. It's not, to me, it's just be your best person. Yep. So, everyone has strengths and weaknesses. I mean, none of us are the same.
Yeah.
Some of us have similar stuff, like we both don't like confrontational conversations, but it doesn't mean we're the same person.
Yeah.
So, work on your weaknesses, what you think is weakness, and use your strengths.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty basic.
It's nothing new.
Yeah.
It's just,
I like it.
Yeah. Simple.
Yeah.
I'd like to be too in depth.
No, but it's all you need, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Look, and get stronger at the things you are good at, and and nurture the things you are that you are good at. So.
And that takes a level of self-awareness as well.
That's where it starts, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I guess when it comes down to it, is if we can to survive in society, I think then they need to be self-aware and work on. You got to, like you said, you never. Like we talked about brushing teeth, when I was a kid, earlier episodes. Brush your teeth once, so and then say I'm clean, So, you don't say, oh well, I'm a nice person, and then don't work on it, or I'm a nurturing person, and then before you know it, 10 years down the track, you're not that nurturing anymore because you haven't worked on it.
Yeah.
So
it comes through your deeds.
Yeah. So, same question to you though. Like, what's your
for survival?
Yeah.
Self-knowledge.
Yes.
Absolutely paramount.
Yeah.
And I'm really sorry to just flip this back on you, Jarad, but because I had it in my head already while you were talking. I just thought, so where does self-knowledge start? Like at what age? Because you were asking me, at what age are you going to let your kids do this? At what age do you bring this up? Do you really think they can do this at 3? Well, when are you supposed to start knowing yourself?
There's no direct age, is there really? Like, there's no there's guidelines of that. But I mean, self-knowledge wise, there's guidelines for growth. There's guidelines for learning. But self-knowledge, there's...
But if you think of yourself, where does it start?
It starts at the start. Like you're learning and you're learning yourself from the start. Like I heard someone say on the radio that, I took my baby to the doctor because at 6 weeks old, he just kept touching his ears, and it's like the doctor turned around and said, he's just realised he's got ears. So that's learning yourself.
Okay, so that's a good start. So the body.
Yeah.
So know your body.
Yeah.
So now you're asking before about kids not wanting to eat something. Maybe
they don't like it.
One of the reasons why they don't want to eat it is because they don't like it.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They don't get anything out of it.
Yeah.
They know what they need.
I've thought about that, and I actually action that now. So, at first, it's like, you got to eat your vegetables, you got to eat this, you got to have a bit of meat, you got to have this. Part of me is like, well, if they don't like it, they don't like it. No, that's just from experience of talking to other people and saying, well, my dad said, well, you didn't eat meat for the first 2 years of your life. And I'm like, what? I'm making up for it now. But, he goes, we couldn't get you to eat anything more than vegetables. Really?
Wow.
Yeah, and on paper, they're like a dream kid. But he goes, we were trying to get you to eat meat. It took 18 months old, I think you had the first bite of a sausage. And then after that, slowly we introduced certain parts. And I'm like, geez, you think as a parent, you think you're the only one dealing with this? And that's the fact that my kids, would prefer to eat chicken fingers and tomato sauce instead of, vegetables and rice and, whatever, is because that's what they prefer, It's like, well, I'm not the only one going through this.
Yeah, absolutely not. And this is why we need to talk about things, so people know that they're not alone and this isn't some taboo thing.
No.
But, with the chicken tenders and that sort of thing, chicken nuggets and sauce, when I became a parent, I thought, all health food and everything's going to be great. Erica and my mum both have the attitude that kids can eat whatever they want. They're fine.
Yeah.
And I look at basketball players in the NBA, American football players. A lot of them are from from African American communities.
Yep.
A lot of them are from poorer backgrounds.
Yeah.
Do you think that their mums were shopping at Whole Food stores? Do you think? What do you think LeBron was eating when he was growing up? Do you think that he had everything measured out for him? And look at him.
Yeah.
He's an absolute specimen.
Yeah.
I know he spends a lot of money on health now, something like $2 million a year.
But when he came to the NBA at 18, like, he didn't have any money.
Who was he?
Yeah.
He was a kid probably eating Cheetos.
Yeah.
Now, what does that mean then? Does that mean this whole health food... And this is coming from a vegetarian who tries to take care of his health.
Yep.
Okay? But it seems to me that people are a lot more robust than what we get credit for, especially children.
Yep.
Now, what my kids have eaten will horrify you, okay? When we talk about this free-range parenting stuff, now, it's not a philosophy. For us, like I said, we don't do labels. We try to follow the child's interests.
Yep.
You know, I don't live a certain way. I live according to what life gives me and what I can get. That's all.
Yep.
You know, I didn't design this. It just kind of happened. And it's natural for me.
Natural, yeah.
Now, I remember people being horrified when they saw our eldest son eating just sugar.
Okay.
Now, you know how parents feel about sugar. Sugar's like, you know, tobacco these days, and nicotine.
It's the new,
it's worse than cocaine. I think it actually is in some ways. But my eldest son, he was like spooning sugar into his mouth. And Eric was like, he'll know when to stop. And he does. And you should see our sweets cupboard after Halloween. It doesn't get touched.
Yeah.
You know, our kids have always had access to anything they want.
Okay.
But it's never touched.
Yeah.
And if they're like, can I have some chocolate? Yeah. No worries. It's just there.
Yeah.
Now, it's really something that Erica has always said is, you know, self-regulation is so important.
Yeah.
And I absolutely agree with that in terms of what you want to put into your body, what your body needs, and your emotional regulation. Some people can't even control their feelings. That's why they have those explosions at you when you're confronting them about risk and compliance issues.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting point about the food and you know, like when they have access to it whenever they want it, they eat it when they don't gorge on things, you know, like, because you haven't withheld anything. And they just eat it when they want it. Yeah, I suppose. I mean, look, self-regulation is an interesting point as well. You know, like, that's self-regulation. A lot of people don't have it.
No,
they don't have it because why are there so many people that like I don't have the numbers, but you know, I'm one of them. The overweight society, like, people overweight, like, so they don't know when to stop eating. You know, or they eat. And I remember talking to a guy a while back, and it's very bit similar to you, a bit of a thinker, and just sort of did his own thing, and, you know, like, sort of forged his own path and just let life take him where it took him. And, like, I remember I was with him, and I'm like, we've got to stop for lunch. It's midday. And he's like, I'm not hungry. I go, don't you want to eat lunch? He goes, I'll just eat when I'm hungry. And then, like, later in the day, like, it's like 2:30 in the afternoon, he's just eating his first meal. He's like, I wasn't hungry till now. Like, why do I want to eat it at 6, 12, and you know, like, and I think, you know what, that's a good way to he just regulates. That's the way he lives. So.
And why do you think people ate at 6, 12, and 6?
Because as kids, they were told that's when you eat.
That's the work schedule.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It's to meet the needs of industry, really.
Yeah. And then, you know, as a parent, as a person working, you're like, well, you must get up and have breakfast.
Yeah.
And then,
makes total sense.
And then the bell goes at 12 or whatever, you know, and you have your sandwich, and
we're pretty well conditioned, aren't we?
Yeah, it's pretty eye-opening, actually. You've just blown my small mind.
But sorry to do this to you. I have to ask you another question.
I don't like when you start a question with sorry.
You said that your parenting style is what you would call traditional.
Yeah.
Where did you get the tradition from? Where do you inherit this tradition?
Well, it's...
Because your dad didn't give you a handbook. His dad didn't give him one either.
No. And see, what I call traditional is completely different to the person that's living next door to me. So, again, I call myself traditional, which probably isn't the right word, because it's traditional to me. It's traditional to the people, the families that I've seen. But in saying that, I would go to your house when we were kids, and it was different to my house.
Yeah.
You know?
We're from different ethnicities as well.
Yeah.
I'm Vietnamese, by the way, if anyone didn't know that. My nickname's Kiwi, but yes, I'm not this little married. Yeah.
But yeah, and then we go to a friend's house that lived one street over, and that was a different.
Yep, very different
dynamic as well.
Totally, yeah.
And so what's traditional? I guess you definitely made me question what I just said then, but I'm traditional to what I have seen in my family. So I think that's where I get it from.
Yep.
My family.
Yep, just your family. Okay.
So I'm traditional to my parents, to my grandparents, obviously, because they raised my parents, and go back the line.
But you also said the other people that you know. So it's not just you, and they didn't grow up in your family.
Yeah.
So where did they get it from?
Yeah.
I mean, this whole thing with kids not sleeping in your bed.
Yeah.
Now, do you know any other mammals that kick out their newborns?
Yeah.
From their
that's
bed?
right. They're next to yeah.
Could you imagine that an ape kicking out the baby
just
to go sleep in another cave?
Yeah. And I find it brutal. Like, I still find it brutal to this day. Like, and I've changed my behaviour because of that one conversation I had with early days, where I just went, you know what? If they want to sleep, there's times, I'll go and sleep in their bed because they've spread out on my bed, and I'm like, I need space. But it's nothing to do with me being like, you must get out. Like, I still try and I want to make them comfortable alone. I want them to be so. The reason I do at times say, no, you have to go to your own bed, is because I want them to feel comfortable in their own space.
Yeah.
And at night is probably the hardest part to get used to.
Yeah.
So I want them to feel safe in the house, but I want them to know that we're here, but you also, in your room is your space, and you can feel comfortable there. And like I said, night is the hardest because it's dark. It's the scary time, So whilst I'm happy for them to come to our bed, but because of that conversation, I do try and train.
Yeah,
is that the right word? But try and help them feel comfortable.
Yeah,
being alone, because I think that's important. Or I personally think that's important. I know my wife, she doesn't like being alone.
Yep.
She just doesn't like it.
Yep.
Like, I'm not going to say frets, but she does have times where she'll just, if I'm out, she'll ring me to say, oh, you're coming home soon or whatever. And it's not her being like...
And are you going to try to train her?
Yeah. Well,
seriously,
Yeah, no. But I've been saying that.
You wouldn't, would you?
No, that's right. We have discussions, but we have discussions about it. And I try and help her. You say, oh, I'll be home soon. And, and that's not her going... where are you? You must get home. That is a genuine and
you don't see it as a fault in her.
No, not at all.
Exactly,
not at all. And whereas I do enjoy my alone time.
Yep.
But again, she has to understand that that's not a fault in me. That's not me wanting to get away from my family. It's just I've always enjoyed being on my own.
So why are we trying to train the kids?
Train the kids to do it.
Yeah.
It's the more you, like I said, I'm learning a lot talking to you. But
look, I'm not saying I'm right or anything like that.
No.
But I'm just looking purely from the perspective of the child.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
That they've got this particular need. In this case, if it's your youngest or your eldest, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But if the issue is, that you want space, or if you want to train them in a particular way, well, where does that come from?
Yeah.
Why is there that societal expectation that kids should be able to do this, they should be able to do that?
Well, that comes from society too.
The tradition
of parenting. You sleep in your own bed, and they, we keep touching on that. But there's lots of other things about parenting that food, they have to eat the right food, and it's like you said. But you think, well, as kids, you don't have to have the perfect diet. You just have to be sustained.
Yeah, really.
Have enough energy. And
I remember someone telling me kids can live off the smell of an oily rag. They really can.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, don't feed my kids, but it's amazing what they actually can function off.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Now, people say, but there's, long-term health effects. Yeah, probably. But, I look at these guys in the NBA and think, you know what, genetics play a pretty big role in it too.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are absolute beasts physically.
Yeah.
That come from a poorer upbringing, like you said, that wouldn't be shopping at the... they'd be eating what they got. And a lot of that time probably is something that they can buy in bulk. And, poorer communities can only... You can only buy what you can afford. I know, we should... do you think we should shop at better places and, do things... we can only... buy what we can afford with our means. So, there's times where you're like, well, we'll just duck down to Woolies and grab the chicken nuggets or the this and that there, because you get 5 meals in one box. Like oh sweet, the whole week's done.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's but the point is, I guess, there's a lot of points, but one of the points is no one's perfect at this. We can't, like I said, my dad didn't hand me a book, and he didn't get a book, and we're all still here functioning. Yeah. Reasonably intelligent, I hope. And what I guess what I want to say is, like, there's no right or wrong in regards to how we are doing things. Like we are both raising kids, and we're both trying to get our kids to be able to function in the world with us and then without us, and grow up to be happy individuals.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm hoping I'm on the right path.
Well, look, you said you're doing everything with love, and that you tell your kids you love them.
Yeah.
You're spending a lot of time with them. I think that's what counts in the end.
Yeah, they remember. From what I understand, kids will remember that, and then a new bike. They might remember the bike for a while, but they remember the times that you you were with them. And,
exactly.
I think that's what I want to fill their childhood with.
Yeah,
experiences.
And that's all we can really bring with us, isn't it? Just the memories.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally.
Absolutely. Look, I know we've been dragging on. I just want to share one more story. I know this is longer than usual, and I'll make it even longer by apologising. There was a book that came out a few years ago, probably 10 years ago now, called Memoirs of a Tiger Mom. Okay. It was by an Asian lady. And I didn't read the book, but I read a lot of comments about the book.
Yep.
And a lot of other Asian kids. Like I said, I'm from a Vietnamese background. I didn't experience any, tiger parenting myself. I was pretty lucky. I've got fantastic parents. But people were commenting about it and saying, just how tough it was having a mum that had that sort of, push to try to make... It was all about survival.
Yeah.
It was all about surviving the world.
Okay.
And I remember one particular comment from someone writing on the internet saying, my mum taught me everything I know. I can't remember, like I'm a doctor or a lawyer or something. I'm doing really, really well. But I never want to see her, and I get sick when I'm around her.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So on that note, everyone, good night. Thanks, Jarad.
Thank you, mate. See ya.